I am the boss of a horror instance. All players know one thing. As long as you stay friendly in this instance, I will show you the way to clear it. But this time, while I was away, new players arrived. They rampaged through the instance, looting and slaughtering NPCs. I turned back and went home, digging out a sharp knife buried in the crimson soil. The system alerts began popping up frantically. Warning. Instance energy has surpassed the limit. Warning. Fingmian Town instance is evolving. Announcement. Fingmian Town has evolved from a level 1 instance to CT level. Everything was fine when I left. At the entrance of the alley, the breakfast stall, old man Yang would be serving wontons and calling out to me, "Little girl. Eat something warm before you go." The little girl from next door would come running over, staring with wide eyes, saying, "Big sister, can you bring me a piece of candy?" The flower shop owner would shout to me with hands on her hips, "Little sister. Come see the new blooms for your sister." I replied to them all one by one, but when I returned, the town's breeze was heavy with the scent of blood. The breakfast stall was in pieces. Old man Yang's skull had been crushed from behind, his entire face soaked in scalding water. The little girl was barefoot, her red dress torn to shreds, her face was covered in crisscrossing scars. She had just been cut down from a tree, wailing in agony. The flower shop lady clutched her crushed flowers, dazed. Nothing was left of her abdomen but a gaping hole. The town's only doctor had his hand stomped on and broken. Yet he was still struggling to treat the wounded. I picked up the little girl. She threw her arms around my neck, sobbing. "Mommy and Daddy don't want Dineen anymore. Will big sister also?" I gently stroked the back of her head. "No. This is our home. I will never abandon a member of my family." Seeing me return, the doctor limped toward me. Those guys, they weren't like normal players. We didn't even have time to react. And everything became like this. There are too many casualties, and they're too severe. Our instance's fear points are not enough to buy medicine. I'm afraid. As he spoke, he couldn't help but choke up. He was a good doctor. His life was dedicated to saving others, yet he was stabbed to death by a patient. He refused to harm players in horror instances, which is why he was exiled to my town. The NPCs in Fingmian Town were all cast-offs that other instances didn't want. During the horror instance meetings, other bosses would mockingly call this place the dumpster, and I was the king of trash. But I didn't care. These NPCs had long been my family and friends. I asked how many fear points were needed. The doctor adjusted his broken glasses, carefully naming a number. "We probably need about 100 million fear points," he quickly added. "I know that's too much. Maybe even a few tens of millions." I set Eneen down. I used my remaining fear points to heal the doctor's injuries, then tucked a black fountain pen into his chest pocket. "Take care of them." As I was about to turn away, he hurriedly grabbed me. Panic filled his face. "Where are you going? You can't beat them." Enyin's eyes were swollen and red. She reached out her tiny arms, trying to hook my finger. "Sister, don't go." I looked toward the ruined toy shop, dug a doll out from the rubble, and tucked it into her arms. The doctor stepped back. I locked the hospital door. "Be good and wait for me to come back." My smile slowly faded. I said to the doctor, "Wait for me for one night. Just one night. My home has also been destroyed." This was the sanctuary that all the town's residents helped me build. Beige brick walls, wooden windows. Even the cracks in the bricks were nurtured with tender green moss. There was a small garden behind the house, where flowers of all colors bloomed brilliantly. Xia Yuan, the flower shop owner, often praised my gardening skills, but she didn't know these flowers grew so well. Because they were carnivorous. I found the right spot and squatted down. My palm passed through the glass shards and plunged into the ground. The soil was warm and slimy, as if I were reaching into the abdominal cavity of a corpse. Passing through layers of soft, rotten mud, my fingers finally touched something hard. I yanked it out with a sudden pull. At that same moment, several figures appeared at the town entrance. "Where is this?" "Damn, it's Fingmian Town again. Brother Zhou, take us through another round." I just thought of a new way to torture them. "I guarantee we'll farm more coins than last time." A woman in tight leather gear impatiently drew her dagger. That little brat in the red dress. It felt so good to cut her. She cried loud enough, too. So satisfying. I want her again this time. A man in a refined suit with sharp, calculating eyes behind his glasses spoke up. "Same as the old rules, spread out. After maximizing the harvest. Meet in the center." A scarred brute shouted. "Time to harvest. Stop talking and let's go." After saying that, he was the first to charge into the thick fog rising over the town, accompanied by the crackle of sudden static. The system's voice suddenly rang out from the void. The man in the suit and the woman in leather became alert. They immediately signaled the players behind them to stop. The system suddenly began screaming without warning. Fingmian Town instance has evolved to Class C. Wait. Fingmian Town's updated rating is Class A. Fingmian Town's final rating is Class S. The players looked at each other in shock. Is the system broken? Fingmian Town? No way. It's a classy instance. A bunch of trash NPCs, who could grow to Class S in such a short time? The crowd turned toward the man in the suit. He adjusted his glasses and said decisively, "Where are the clearance cards? Take them all out." Someone whispered, "Withdraw immediately?" Mine was from a rare 140-point treasure chest. The man in the suit said nothing more. He pulled a golden card from his pocket. Seeing this, the others followed suit. After a flash of blinding golden light, they opened their eyes. Not a single person had left. Only the golden cards had turned into ordinary scraps of paper. The players' expressions instantly turned grim. How can this be? Someone turned the card over and over, only to find a tiny line of text at the bottom. Note, ineffective for Class A and above instances. The woman in leather scratched her hair in frustration. The man in the suit also frowned deeply. He clearly hadn't expected this outcome. Their eyes met by chance. A flash of ruthlessness crossed the suit man's eyes. No choice, we have to enter the town. I've never met you before, Brother Zhou, but you're a high-ranking expert. Have you ever cleared a Super S rank? Someone's legs were already shaking before entering. The suit man snapped. Entering is the only way to live. Besides, Fong Jun has already gone in. Are we going to abandon our companion? The leather-clad woman followed close behind him. As she stepped into the instance, those who abandon teammates are scum. I looked down on them. I looked down at this group of people with a cold sneer. The knife in my hand, having not tasted blood for long, was vibrating restlessly, but I held it back. Not yet. I used to be able to act on impulse. But now my goal is to earn fear points. If I kill them with one stroke, there won't be enough time for fear to generate. I looked at Fong Jun, the first to enter. His initial excitement had turned into caution. Gripping an iron hammer, he moved forward step by step. Perfect for testing. The peak fear contribution of a single person. Fong Jun muttered something about ranks after hearing the broadcast. He was alone, but showed no sign of panic. He swaggered through the town, swinging his hammer at anything that annoyed him. Occasionally he would shout, "Come out, you old geezers. Why are you hiding?" I followed behind him. Passing an oil drum, I tapped on it. Through a narrow opening, a slip of paper emerged, recording his player profile. He was born into a family with a strong father and a weak mother. Following his alcoholic father, he learned to throw punches at the weak. In school, he was a typical bully, groveling before the strong, tyrannizing the weak. I suddenly saw a few familiar words. I immediately connected a call. Hey, the person on the other side was groggy, probably sleeping. It's Zero. I'm calling to borrow a few NPCs, the other party cursed, bolting upright in bed. You can play pretend in front of those newbie bosses. But what's this troublesome act in front of me? Say it and give me a laugh. I shook the paper and read it to him. Silence on the other end for a moment. He gave a cold snort. Fine, I've given you the access. Fong Jun stopped in his tracks. The thick fog in front of him dissipated, revealing 4 words written in blood, Jinyang Middle School. Behind the rusted iron gates was a deathly silence. What the hell? This is eerie. Why is my school in Fingmian Town? Fong Jun swallowed hard. He swung his heavy hammer at the gate with the inscription, then ran backward away from it. A moment later, he reappeared at the school entrance. Fear was beginning to mark his high noon. He kept repeating his attempts to leave, until light suddenly flickered on inside the school. Shadows moved behind the classroom windows. The sounds of playful laughter drifted out, compared to the suffocating darkness and fog behind him. This place seemed a bit more familiar. Fong Jun gripped his hammer. Another person passed by. He had a bowl cut and thick, black-framed glasses. He stopped unintentionally to glance outside. Then panicked, lowered his head, and ran away in a hurry. Fong Jun leaped forward. Oh ho! My favorite punching bag, why are you running? He chased him into the school. I looked up, looking at the girl leaning on the windowsill, watching everything. I'm leaving him to you. I have only one requirement. She made a face at me. Don't worry. All of them were victims of Fong Jun's bullying. Some lost their lives. Others had their life paths forever altered. After all these years, they deserved to vent their rage. But I was still uneasy. Fong Jun was no longer his old self. He was a veteran who had cleared multiple horror instances. And their leader wasn't there. After thinking for a moment, I took out a teacher's ID card and followed them. Fong Jun's screams echoed from the restroom at the end of the hall. I watched the fear points steadily rise. I felt pleasant. Young people really work with efficiency. But before long, I heard Fong Jun roar in anger. The student in glasses was sent flying into the hallway. I stepped forward quickly. The toilet stalls in the restroom turned into red whirlpools, trying to drag Fong Jun down. He struggled, throwing out several talismans, slowly pulling himself out. I shouted angrily, "Student Fong Jun, why did you bring a weapon to school? And you're hitting your classmates. Call your parents." Many people have an innate fear of and obedience to teachers. Fong Jun didn't react for a second. Teacher, he started it. He tricked me into coming here. And made me fall into a pool of blood. He wants me dead. I looked back at the hallway. The student in glasses tilted his head. And lay on the floor, playing dead. Evidence? You have such a big hammer in your hand. Do you think I'm blind? Years ago, the student in glasses had been severely bullied. Once, when he finally stood up for himself, Fong Jun told the whole world he was the aggressor. I'm the one who hit him? Where's the evidence? He's the one holding the weapon right now. He's clearly the one who's always bullied me. The student lived with his grandmother. She had been called to the school, limping along. Because she was so worried she fell on the way. I pointed to the floor. What pool of blood? This is clearly a toilet. The entire restroom had returned to normal. One of his feet was still in the bowl. Covered in filth. Fong Jun's face flushed as he roared, it's not a toilet. It was a blood pool just now, can't you see? He's trying to kill me. He slammed his hammer onto the floor. Tile shattered. I don't care if you're a player or a ghost. If you try to harm me, you'll all die, he ran out in a rage. As he passed by me, I reached out, snatched his hammer, and weighed it in my hand. Suddenly, the instance's fear point spiked significantly. I understood now. Fong Jun hadn't changed at all. His current bravery was only because he had items to protect him. I simply announced, teacher is confiscating this. Fong Jun immediately tried to grab it back. You dare? This is the weapon I earned. After clearing 6 instances. I dodged him effortlessly. While moving, I said, ha ha ha. School rule number 11. No dangerous items allowed in the teaching area. If you want it back, have your parents come tomorrow. He was never a good student. So he naturally didn't remember what the rules were. I get it. You're with them. Fong Jun's face darkened. He pulled a folding knife from his pocket. I never left Fingmian town. The ghosts here are all made of paper. Do you think I'm afraid of you? I smiled. I applied pressure with my hand. He realized too late. The hammer was as brittle as tofu in my grip. It crumbled into pieces. At the restroom door, a girl in a school uniform held a red notebook. Writing as she spoke, Fong Jun threatened a teacher with a prohibited weapon. One major demerit recorded, go to the academic affairs office to reflect. Fong Jun cursed. He lunged at me with the knife. I casually grabbed his arm. I snapped his wrist. The knife spun in my hand. I walked toward him slowly. Disobedient children face very bad consequences. He screamed and bolted. He shouted threats as he ran. Just wait until Brother Zhou and Sister Li get here. You're all dead. The hallway was quietly filled with students. Their faces were cold and indifferent. As he passed, they all reached out their hands. Fong Jun was scared out of his wits, screaming. He frantically threw out protective items from his pockets. By the time he reached the academic affairs office, he had almost nothing left. Behind the office door, a middle-aged teacher's face was swollen from water damage. Molding spots crawled behind his glasses. He suddenly grinned. We meet again. Fong Jun stepped back, wanting to turn and run. But the hallway was packed with students. They were whispering about his misdeeds. Because I caught you cheating. You slandered me and your classmate, you ran. The teacher took off his glasses, revealing withered, sharp claws. Back then, I thought you might have had a reason. Later, I realized. It's just human nature being evil. The schoolgirl appeared outside the door. Her cheeks were completely split open. Fong Jun gasped for breath. You've all turned into ghosts and you still dare act tough with me? Just wait, I'll send your souls to oblivion soon. He reached into his pocket. His face suddenly stiffened. He frantically searched every single pocket. Where is it? Why is it gone? His items were exhausted. Looking at the encroaching ghosts, he swallowed hard. Step by step, he backed toward the railing. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw several figures downstairs. He screamed at the top of his lungs. Brother Zhou! Brother Zhou, save me! Sister Li! I'm up here. No one answered. This was the 3rd floor of the school building. He looked at the dense crowd of ghosts before him, grit his teeth, and leaped over the railing. Fong Jun's body fell from the sky, shattering into pieces right in front of the man in the suit. Fong Jun's mangled corpse caused fear to spread among the players like a plague. After a brief, deathly silence, someone spoke with a sob. Didn't Brother Fong just go in a moment ago? How is he dead already? Brother Zhou, is this really Fingmian town? Are we going to die here too? I don't want to die, Brother Zhou. Didn't you say we were just here to farm money? The leather-clad woman gripped her dagger tightly. Her face was pale. She spat on the ground. Shut up. Stop crying. Fong Jun died because he didn't follow orders and ran off. As long as you obey, you won't die. The man in the suit took a deep breath. He knelt down to examine the body carefully. Then frowned and looked at the sky, saying with certainty, Chenli is right. Fong Jun died because he left the team. This instance is good at creating hallucinations, using psychological weaknesses to pick us off one by one. From now on, Anyone who acts alone is looking for death. We'll listen to you, Brother Zhou. The man in the suit hesitated for a moment, finally pointing in a direction. Go that way now. A blurry silhouette emerged from the swirling fog. As they approached, they found it was a breakfast stall. The door was currently ajar. A faint, warm yellow light shining from within, the aroma of stewing meat and bones, wafted into their noses. Some players began to salivate involuntarily. Isn't this that old man's shop? When did it start smelling so good? The old man is a weakling. Let's hide here tonight. Maybe things will return to normal when the fog clears at dawn. Brother Zhou, sisterly, let's go in. The man in the suit adjusted his glasses. His eyes flickered. After a moment, he said, fine. Go in. But he didn't move himself. He secretly pulled back the leather-clad woman. He watched the others pour inside. The safer a place seems, the more dangerous it is. Let them scout the way. After quite a while, the two of them finally stepped inside. I was busy serving wontons to the players. Seeing them enter, I only had time for a wide grin. Welcome. The woman in leather was extremely alert. Wasn't the shopkeeper an old man? Grandpa is sleeping. It's too delicious, too delicious. The players already there were all buried in their bowls, shoveling wontons into their mouths as if they hadn't eaten in years. Juices splattered around their eyes. They licked the plates clean. Their mouths were full of chewed dough and minced meat. They mumbled, it's so savory. Brother Zhou, you should try some too. It's too savory. The man in the suit kept one hand in his pocket. He calmly declined. I'm not hungry. The leather-clad woman grabbed the collar of the nearest person. Bowls and chopsticks clattered to the floor as she dragged him. The man was soaked in soup. Yet he seemed to have lost his sense of taste. With an obsessed look, he picked up a wonton. With one bite, he bit off half of something else. A blood-red long tongue flopped onto the floor. Blood dripped down his chin. Yet he continued to chew the wonton with satisfaction. The woman in leather felt a wave of nausea. She immediately threw him aside. She turned and began kicking and punching the other players. But it had no effect. She glared at me and flipped her wrist, suddenly striking out. I maintained a standard smile. I lifted a pot lid to block her. Guest. This is a breakfast stall, not a fight club. You're just a ghost, why are you pretending? If I kill you, this trap will break. However, her favorite dagger couldn't even leave a scratch. A broken wooden lid. My expression gradually turned cold. This shop does not welcome unruly customers. Those who don't follow the rules will die. As soon as the words left my mouth, the leather-clad woman's pupils constricted. She immediately threw down the dagger in her hand. What hit the ground was a misshapen lump of metal. The man in the suit stepped forward. He grabbed the leather-clad woman's hand and gave me a faint smile. Of course, we will obey. He lowered his voice and said, the situation is unclear. Use the clarity potion first. Clarity potions can instantly clear most negative mental states, but they are extremely expensive. Previously, when their 7-man team cleared an A rank mental pollution instance, they only dared to use half a bottle. The woman in leather pulled out the remaining half bottle and carefully dripped it into the mouths of several people. There was no reaction. She wouldn't give up. Trying once, then twice, until the bottle was empty. The man in the suit told her to buy more. She pulled up the shop interface. When she saw the price tag of 4 million gold coins per bottle, the corner of her eye twitched violently. We just farmed a lot. It's enough. Hearing the suit man's words, she gritted her teeth and clicked purchase. But that was only the beginning. Administering, buying. By the time she clicked the 4th bottle in the shop, the woman's fingers were trembling. She hesitated, unable to press the confirm purchase button. Looking at those team members with vacant eyes and foolish expressions, she wished she could stab them to death with her gaze. What use are these useless trash? How about? The suit man said bluntly, how long do we have to stay here? What are the rules? Where are the dead ends? Right now, we know nothing. We need them to scout the way. He knelt down, distastefully stuffed the person's bleeding mouth, then brought his wrist close, and finally pried open their eyelids. Aiming at the void, there was a tiny ding sound. The woman's eyes lit up. Transfer all their money to your account. The man in the suit tossed the person aside, stood up, and wiped his hands. Doesn't this solve it? The woman in leather followed suit. She breathed a visible sigh of relief when entering the shop. However, the cost of 8 full bottles of potion was still inevitably painful. The several people who woke up were full of confusion. What happened to us? The woman in leather snorted. Thanks to Brother Zhou being alert. Otherwise you'd be trapped here until you died. The others all broke into fawning smiles. The man in the suit remained unmoved. He nodded to me. Thank you for the hospitality. We'll be going now. I cleared my throat. Wait a moment, guests. The 9 of you ate 82 bowls in total. That's 1,640 wontons, totaling 49.2 million gold coins. How would you like to pay? All the players were dumbfounded. They stared at the wontons on the floor for a long while. The woman in leather gritted her teeth and glared. Are they pigs? How could they eat so many wontons? Even I don't feel full yet. So this is a scam shop. I nodded and smiled. A scam shop? Isn't that what you've been calling it all along? In the main instance, life is fleeting. Everyone lives with their hearts in their throats. Fingmian Town was a place where all players could rest easy. As long as they were willing, everyone could go to Grandpa Yang's breakfast stall and have a meal of delicious wontons. Until this gang broke in. Old man, what do you mean? Fong Jun started it. Is this even for humans? These scallions are leftovers, aren't they? This shrimp smells moldy. The skin is like mush. And where's the filling? My eyes are wide open. So why can't I see any? Fong Jun was lying through his teeth. His teammates joined in. Brother Jun is right. It tastes off to me too. Ow, ow. Why does my stomach hurt? It must be your wontons. Look, look. The shop says 10 wontons per bowl. But there are clearly only 8 in my bowl. Damn, what a scam shop. The old fogey is still making excuses. Brothers, smash it. Fong Jun grabbed Grandpa Yang's faded collar. With his other hand, he slammed the back of his head, pushing it into the boiling pot. Ha ha ha, Brother Jun, you're awesome. And now, Fong Jun is dead. The tongues of those who jeered have fallen out. I twitched the corners of my mouth. Regrettably, I said, guests, if you have doubts about the number of wontons, I have a good solution. I pulled a sharp knife from under the cutting board and brandished it twice. I don't think you've had time to digest them yet. Just slice open your bellies and see for yourselves. So, who's first? As soon as I finished speaking, someone sneered. Who are you trying to scare? Brother Zhou and Sister Li are ranked players. You won't even know how you died in a moment. Kneel now, and we'll give you a quick death. If I don't pay. What can you do? After saying that, he reached out to push the door. Finding it wouldn't budge, he kicked it. Finally, he used axes and knives to hack at it, but he couldn't leave a single mark on the wood. The man in the suit didn't even look. He spoke calmly. If you'll let us leave after this. Then fine. Several players turned to him in disbelief. Only the woman in leather looked like she understood. Brother Zhou, what do you mean by that? I paid my money. Don't you want the final payment? He raised an eyebrow. Can you even afford the final payment? The man had just let out a cold laugh. When he opened his account, his expression froze. You stole my money. He glared hideously at the man in the suit. He turned and roared at me, or was it you? The remaining others checked their accounts and began to curse. Brother Zhou, you, when I get out, I'm telling everyone. You and this bitch are murdering people for money. Let's see who dares to hire you to carry them again. The woman in leather suddenly moved. She twisted his arm and shoved him forward. Right onto my hand. The sharp knife smoothly sliced through the flesh. Organs spilled all over the floor. The man in the suit's voice was cold. Who wants to be second? Inside the room, besides the sound of boiling water, there wasn't another sound. Good. He scanned their pale faces and smiled at me. Now we can discuss the amount. I repeated, I've already proposed the best solution. He looked regretful, pointing at the floor. My goods have also been damaged. Goods. I chewed on those words. Perhaps I'd been in Fingmian Town too long. But I had almost forgotten. In these instances, the strong prey on the weak. Deceiving each other is the norm. Your people are goods. But that doesn't mean my wontons are fodder. Furthermore, your goods have dirted my floor. Of course. He pressed his palms down, signaling me to stay calm. What I mean is, I will pay for the goods meal. And I will also pay for their mistakes. All at once. A cold light reflected in his eyes. As long as you can guarantee our safe departure. The woman's brow twitched. She still stepped forward to show me her balance. It combined the savings of 9 people. If converted to fear points, it was enough to kill Brother Zhou several times over. I slowly broke into a smile. Of course. Once the money arrives, I'll transfer it immediately. Then, looking toward the door, I said cheerfully. Welcome. The guests looked deathly pale. The woman in leather couldn't help but point and curse. You're like a ghost that won't leave. Why is it you again? I looked confused. Didn't you leave safely? Besides, Brother Zhou is injured. So I had to take over his shift. The midnight flower shop still emitted a fresh fragrance. The group backed out of the shop and ran. In the convenience store, I was tidying shelves. In the clothing store, I was folding clothes. In the barber shop, the scissors in my hand were clicking. Finally, they stopped, panting for breath. They looked up to see, Starry River Flower Shop. I sincerely invited them to come in and rest. The man in the suit wiped his sweat. He smiled politely. No, thank you. Last time, we spent 400 million gold and 2 lives. I looked up at the sky with concern. But autumn is here. Autumn is here. He repeated those 3 words. It was as if he were reciting a curse. On the large tree behind them, the first leaf silently fluttered down. It swayed back and forth. No one noticed it. Not until it hit someone's shoulder. Its brittle edge was as hard as diamond. It nearly sliced off a large chunk of flesh. The man immediately recoiled in pain. He fell, and before a wail could leave his throat, he saw in the branches that blotted out the sky. Countless leaves were hanging and falling. He propped himself up on his elbows, struggling to get away from the canopy. But trees were planted on both sides of every road. After many years, they were all lush and leafy. The rustling sound was endless. In no time at all, the street was covered in a layer of leaves. Someone crawled, their body covered in wounds. A player died, and was immediately buried by the withered leaves. Screams rose and fell. I sat in the shop and took a sip of hot tea. On the frosted glass door of the flower shop, a bloody hand pressed against the pane. Urgent knocking followed. The woman in leather roared. "Open the door. Open it now." I lazily took a bite of a muffin. Only then did I say slowly, "Guests, autumn is our peak season. Entering will cost extra." This time, there was no haggling. "Anything? Just open the door, hurry." She held up a protective shield, and stayed close to the man in the suit. Four players clung desperately to them. The limbs outside the shield already showed bone. The moment the door opened, a faint sound was heard. A single leaf fell, and the cracked shield shattered completely. The five of them gritted their teeth and rolled inside, collapsing on the floor, panting heavily. Even the man in the suit was covered in fine cuts and leaf debris. One person even had several leaves in their calf. Blood flowed out steadily. They were staring blankly at the ceiling. I tapped the timer on the desk. "The autumn price is 1,000 gold per second. I must remind you, guests. From the moment you entered, the meter has been running." Her eyes widened. "I'm only paying for 2 people." I continued. "Given your previous answer, automatic payment has been enabled." "When did I agree to?" she gasped, hurriedly checking her account. The balance had already dropped by 600,000. She stood up. "As for the others, do what you want. I'm only paying for myself and Zhou Ming." The suit man's brow twitched imperceptibly. But this time, no one spoke up in opposition. No one knew when autumn would end. Running out of gold meant losing access to items, which would put them in extreme danger. Fong Li, lying on the floor, was still panting. "You're really ruthless," another youth with clear eyes said, sisterly. "Brother Zhou, you've already spent 94 million gold coins on me. Yet I haven't done anything for you." Coincidentally, in Fengmian town, the clearance conditions are still unknown. You need someone to scout the way. I've cleared 11 C-rank instances, 8 B-rank ones, and 1 A-rank one. I will be useful. The flower shop's glass door was still being scratched by withered branches. The suit man smoothed his clothes and asked, "Is there another door?" I pointed the way. "Thank you." The woman bought another shield to hold in front of him. He put his hand on the door handle, his movements cautious and swift. The lock clicked softly. He took a deep breath and pulled the door open inward. There were no fallen leaves outside. A wide stone road stretched out. Street lights on both sides were lit. Occasional insect chirps came from the corners, just like an ordinary small-town night. But no one would lower their guard. The man in the suit held a scalpel. Except for Fong Li. "Everyone follow me." Several people struggled to their feet and walked out the door one by one. The woman in leather kicked the one left on the floor, hard in the waist. "Stop playing dead. Get the hell out." I took a couple of looks. Regrettably, I said, "He's not playing dead. He's actually dead." I grinned. "Here's some good news. I can recycle him for 10 gold coins." The woman sneered. "No thanks." But soon, she discovered, her gold was still decreasing at 2,000 per second. Even a dead man costs money? Why wouldn't he? He's still lying in the shop. He even dirted the floor. She waved her hand impatiently. "Sell him to you. Recycle him immediately." "All right." I raised my knife and buried him piece by piece in several pots. I asked curiously, "Why are you staying here? Are they coming back?" Her tone was unusually calm. She said in a drawn-out way, "Because rather than being led around by you, it's better to strike first." I suddenly turned around. Several metal chains flashing with runes shot out from behind her. They instantly wrapped around my limbs and neck. She held the end of the chains in her hand. Something tightened around my throat. "I'm uncomfortable. Your gold must be nearly gone after buying this, right? This is the top-tier item in the shop." She tightened it a bit more. "So what? If I can leave an S-rank instance, I can make back any amount of money." She held a knife to my neck. "Speak. How do we actually leave this hellhole?" I was very sincere. "I don't know." "Don't know?" The chains suddenly tightened. The runes pressed against my skin, making a sizzling sound as they burned. "Do you think if you waste enough time, I'll be punished by the rules when my gold runs out?" She leaned close to my ear and said, "I still have an hour. Before that, these chains will make every second painful." Zhou Ming will find other NPCs. This time, he won't show any mercy. If they don't talk, they'll die. She drew her knife across my cheek. I think I can add a little more fun for myself. Cold liquid flowed over my skin. I suddenly spoke up. Others are here for the gold. But you do this just for your own pleasure. I envy you. It's understandable that you hate me. But why are you going after Yining? She had tortured one before. So it was easy to remember the girl in the red dress. That look of hers is all an act. Can't you tell? Seeing I had no expression. She grew agitated. She paced around, biting her finger. I've seen plenty like her. Pretending to be all innocent and pure. Just to trick people into giving her attention. And those people are blind too. How could they like her? Protecting someone like that, it sickens me. I met someone like that a long time ago. Wearing a white dress every day. Calling everyone brother, sister, uncle, aunt. That smile made me want to vomit, and the result? Ha ha ha. She seemed to realize she'd lost her composure. She abruptly stopped talking. If Zhou Ming hadn't said we should reuse her, I would have killed her long ago. I stated calmly. But Yining is indeed a very good child. When Yining was banished to my instance, I was already somewhat bored. No player was worth my effort. Therefore, the instance was no longer worth maintaining. She stumbled in, tattered and worn, and gave me her only doll. She planted the first flower in this wasteland. From that, the first flower field slowly grew. Then the first shop. The first bowl of wontons, and the forgotten, forbidden S-rank instance. Fingmian Town. Shut up. She made another cut. I don't want to discuss this with you. Where is the exit? Speak. I gave the same answer. I don't know. I grabbed a section of the chain. What this sentence means is, everyone must die. The chain erupted with red light, runes swirling. My expression didn't change. I applied a little pressure with my fingertips. With a faint crack, the entire chain shattered. I brushed my hand over my cheek, and the wound healed instantly. The woman in leather looked utterly horrified. She stumbled backward and frantically opened the shop interface. She read every single word quickly. This is impossible. It clearly says it's effective against S rank. I walked toward her step by step. A long time ago. No one raided my instance. Because no one ever made it out alive. More accurately, entering it is death. Over the years, my patience has grown. See? I even set up interesting levels for you. But this is where it ends. The broken chains rapidly coiled around her ankles like snakes. She was lifted off the ground, hanging upside down. Blood rushed to her head. She tugged at the chains with both hands, letting out a painful whimper. I brought an empty flower pot and placed it beneath her, then aimed the sharp knife at her head. Just then, the town's loudspeaker suddenly crackled. Someone blew into the microphone, then tapped it. Hey, boss lady, can you hear me? I'm sending you my regards from the hospital. It was Zhou Ming. It was as if he had extra eyes. I don't think Chenli is dead yet. Put down the knife. Let's talk. I slowly raised my head. My gaze seemed to pierce through the walls and land on the hospital. With a hint of cold mockery, I said, forgive me for being blunt, but your character isn't worth trusting. He must have been through a fierce battle. Although he tried hard to stay calm, I could still hear the trembling in his voice. At least I stayed within the lines in your instance. I never made a move. Leaving fondly, there was a gesture of sincerity. Your family member in the hospital is a guest I was forced to keep. I think we can have a talk. As soon as he finished speaking, an amplified background sound came through. It was the sound of a little girl in pain. It's Yining. My pupils constricted slightly. My request is simple. Let us leave the instance alive. I was silent for a moment. I want to talk to the doctor. The sound of chairs scraping came from the speaker, followed by a muffled grunt. I said, do you recognize him? A single, short word, yet it contained long-suppressed anger. That accident wasn't your intention. Yet ever since, you haven't dared to hold a scalpel. You even felt that being stabbed to death by that crazed patient was a form of relief and retribution. My voice suddenly turned sharp. But now, the culprit is right in front of you. Showing no remorse after all these years. Only getting worse and worse. On the other end of the broadcast, there was a heavy thud against the desk. Doctor, I have no intention of agreeing to his terms. I understand, doctor. I shouted loudly. Yining, hold your doll tight. Remember to protect everyone. Faint echoes of Zhou Ming's curses came through. You're all insane. If I'm not going to make it, then none of you will live. I let out a cold sneer. I turned toward Fengli, whose face was completely pale, and slashed down with the knife. Chaotic noises erupted from the speaker. Just then, a system notification rang out. Instance, Fingmian Town. Rating, evolved to beyond S rank. An ethereal and twisted nursery rhyme drifted eerily from the broadcast, as if countless children were humming along. The rustle of a pen on paper sounded close, then far. Cries of agony rose from Zhou Ming and the remaining players. As the nursery rhyme reached a piercing climax, it was followed by a sudden, dead silence. Yinin's young voice rang out. Sister, everyone is safe now. I smiled. Yinin, you're so capable. I opened the door. Light was breaking over the horizon. In the distance, Yinin came skipping along, doll in hand. The doctor's white coat was splattered with blood. A black fountain pen clipped to his chest. He led Jiming over. Grandpa Yang. Can we still have wontons today? Haha, coming right up.